Good morning. I would love to introduce Linda Griffiths-Brown from Total HRM for this Business Spotlight interview. So welcome, Linda.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the opportunity to have a chat, Phil.
Excellent. So Linda, can you please introduce what your business is and what it is that you do? How do you serve your customers?
So the business we have, Total HRM, is a HR consulting business. So we work with clients in the areas across HR, recruitment, and then training and coaching. Our view is that we empower people to thrive. That's really our belief around what we do. And so it's working with business owners to ensure they're in the best position to work with their teams, to have the right people around them, and then putting the systems and process in place to allow everyone to be their best when they're at work.
Fantastic. And how long have you been in business for then?
So the business has been around for about 15 years and I've had the business for 8. So I actually started off as a client of the business. So I was working for a government agency at the time, looking to outsource HR and finance, and we outsourced HR to this local business called Total HRM. And then I left that organisation and was going to start my master's. And the woman, Judy, who had the business at the time, said, well, do you want to come and do some work for me? So I had my first day working for her, absolutely loved it. And so never started the master's. And so I was a client, and then I was, working for the business owner. And then 6 months later, I bought the business. So that's how an engineer ends up running a HR consulting business.
Fantastic. So that sounds like it was a really exciting journey then.
It was. I've learned a lot along the way. I'd always worked, most of my career has been working for a couple of large multinational organisations, and running a small business is a whole other kettle of fish. Very different when you're the one who has to ensure that you make payroll, all of those kind of things. The things around cash flow and that kind of thing is very different than when you work for a large corporation. And probably the other thing I've also learned a lot along the way in terms of when I first had the business, really I bought a job. So I really bought a job rather than a business. There was a lot of working in the business, and then over time I've built the business up. So rather than it just being me, to now there's a team of us that work in the business. So yes, certainly learned a lot of lessons along the way. And it's just, I've got to say, it's the most rewarding role. I absolutely love it. I love the clients that we work with. We've got business partners that we work with, and then also the team, like in terms of employees that we have in the team. It's just absolutely fantastic. So very, very rewarding, but certainly challenging along the way with things like COVID and that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, we'll get on to COVID in a minute. So what sort of geographic area do you cover then?
So we've got clients, for example, in Perth and Sydney would be examples of where we have clients, but primarily we work with clients in the northeast Victoria and southern New South Wales. So sort of Wagga Wagga, clients in Shepparton, and along, really along the Murray River. So there's the clients that we work with on site. So we have quite a few clients where the team are on site with them, and that might be half a day a week, it might be 2-3 days a week. So those clients, because it is on-site work, that's around this part of the world, but certainly able to support clients remotely in places like Perth and Sydney.
Wow, that's fantastic. So, Linda, who would make an ideal client for your business?
So we probably have some different types of clients. So we have quite a few, like a base level of clients that work they're in the government space. So that would be local government agencies, state government agencies, that kind of thing. So they're one part of our client base. We have another group of clients who are that medium-sized businesses who some of them have an on-site HR resource, some of them may not. where we're supplementing or providing HR support to them. And then the other group of clients is small business owners. So that might be someone who's hiring someone for the very first time and wants to make sure they get it right. But our sort of, size is usually around that at least sort of 10 to 15 employees is quite often, but we do have, as I say, quite a lot of clients who maybe have 1 to 5 employees, and they just want to make sure they get their basic HR systems right. And that's what we support them with. Of that sort of small to medium sized business, we have quite a lot of family businesses that we work with.
Right.
So that might be often second or third generation family businesses. So they're a lot of fun to work with, and really developing that the next generation that's coming through and developing their skills to be able to lead their business and leave that legacy as well. With quite often that focus of the family business owners.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, before we jumped on the call, we were talking a little bit about COVID. So, when you think about COVID and all the changes that I guess that was forced on us through that period, what are some of the things that have really stuck with your business from that COVID experience?
So one of the things that interestingly really got us through that whole period was recruitment. So recruitment went from being maybe less than a fifth of our business to being over half our turnover was recruitment recruitment focused. So it was something that, because of the shortages and the difficulties people were having in finding people, they would then turn to an organisation like us. And it might be the first time they'd actually worked with a HR business. It was actually in the area of recruitment. So that was one area that has really, developed that whole space for us as a business. What we found was it's only just now that our on-site HR consulting work has really picked back up again. So it's taken a while for that to kind of rebound. Probably the biggest thing which really came as well out of that recruitment space was that ability to talk to people online like we're doing today. So business owners far more comfortable with recruiting people that they may have never met in person, but making sure we've got the right steps and processes in place to ensure it's the right candidate, but actually, recruiting people remotely. And that ability to work with clients like those in Sydney or Perth, where you can do all of that work remotely. You don't have to have someone local. If it's someone who is a fit for your business, then it doesn't matter really where they work, being able to do that. The other thing was then also around flexibility for employees. And I think that's for our business, but it's for a lot of businesses, that where you have employees that are that are office based, that ability to be able to work from anywhere. So whether that be you who's overseas at the moment when we're having this conversation, whether that be someone who's got some commitments that they're needing to work around, that ability to work remotely. And for myself, who lives over an hour away from the office, that ability to not need to come into the office every day, and being able to do that work remotely. I know that we use Office 365, and I've got to say, I never saw the point of Teams. I thought, what's the use of a system like Teams? But now totally besotted with a system like Teams. It's actually one of the foundational systems that we now use to actually drive the business forward in terms of managing work, communications between team members, access to our documentation, that kind of thing. So I think that was the other piece, is really understanding the value of IT. Making sure you have the security systems in place so you don't get hacked, that kind of thing. So that was probably the other, other piece that came out of it, was just really that the importance of technology and that it can be utilised for good.
And look, I think what you've just shared with us is basically all the things, the changes that most businesses have actually been going through as a result of COVID. So, well done. Thank you.
And just on that, if I can add, Phil, what that's meant to is opened up candidate pools for clients, because your employees, if it is office-based work, don't necessarily have to live in the city that you're in. So here we are in regional Victoria, New South Wales, up here on the border, Albury-Wodonga. We've got clients now who have employees that, say, for example, are Sydney based. Now, I think it is important to build the relationships and rapport with people. So actually having them, I've got a team member, for example, who lives on the Mornington Peninsula. About once a month, she'll come up here and we actually have all of the team get together. So I think what's really important if you're going down that path of people who are remote is to still ensure that you establish great relationships within the team and have the systems where they feel, you know, supported and part of the team. So one of the team members, it was her birthday, so we organised an Uber Eats delivery of cake to her house. It's just those little things that even though someone's remote and they miss out a lot of those things that may occur in the office, that they still feel part of the team and connected to the team. So I think that it's a great opportunity for us, but at the same time, you need to manage your employees.
Yeah, absolutely important. And so, Linda, what's been the the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome on your journey in business?
For me, it was moving from, it's probably two things and they're related, moving from basically buying a job to actually having a business. And then the other big one was that piece around paying staff and not yourself. And I think, you know, cash flow is king when it comes to having a small business, but that whole piece around understanding that you're actually the most important person in the business and you need to pay yourself first. And then it's ensuring that you have the sufficient funds that when you're bringing on or adding on team members, that you can actually sustain that with all of the ups and downs that can occur in terms of things like cash flow and work and that kind of thing. So, you know, if the pipeline of work dries up, where, you know, something like COVID, or in our case, it was also the fires. So we had the fires in this region before COVID. So we actually had a chunk of work cancelled before the fire, with the fires before COVID hit. And then we had that double whammy of then COVID occurring. And so, yeah, making sure you got the cash flow that any employees you bring on, you can afford. But it's that, do you have a job or a business? And then that second one, which is, and paying yourself first, is just so important. Yep.
So, Linda, at what point did you realise that, or at what point did you make that transition from being a job to then being a business owner? What was the thing that triggered it for you?
I'll jokingly say it was getting the big black photocopier that's just amazing and prints and does everything. And I sort of felt like I was a proper business owner because I had a big copy machine. I joke, but I'm kind of a little bit serious. I think for me, it was, I had team members that came on probably within 4 to 6 months of me having the business, and they were, you know, doing some casual work for me, that kind of thing. It was probably at the time I didn't realize that I had a job and not a business until probably, I think it would be more sort of that 3 to 4 years in. I think transitioning from working from home, working out of cafes, libraries, all of that kind of thing, to then actually having your first office space. And ours was just a one-room office space and having some part-time employees. To then very much now the space that we're in a building now with an amazing training space as part of that building. That certainly cemented the transition, but I would say it probably took me 3 to 4 years, and I didn't realize I had a job until in retrospect I was reflecting on what I'd been through and starting to realize that now I actually had a business and not a job, because you were spending that time needing to work on the business rather than just all that hands-on being in the business, being busy.
Yeah, fantastic. And so along this journey, what's the biggest thing that you've actually learned about yourself?
About myself. The thing I've learned, particularly in the last year and a half, is I thought I was indispensable. So I was of this perception, I think, that the business would fall apart without me. And what I've realised in the last year and a half is when you have great team members and great people around you, that the business can run without you. So whether that's been having that ability to, go on a, just before COVID hit, we had a 4-week holiday overseas. So that ability to actually have and rely on the team to run things while you're gone, to the last year and a half where I've got some health stuff going on. I've got long COVID, and that just means that I can't be as active in the business anymore, and the business is continuing to run. It's growing, it's thriving, and that's without me. And so lovely position to be in, although I actually love working, and so would prefer to be, working a lot, but that's that whole piece of you're actually not indispensable. So if you put the right systems and process in place, so we have lots of systems around how we do things and videos showing you how to do things. And if you hire good people, then they're able to run things even if you're not there. And look, that's been a transition to around the ego. So it's that piece around wanting to feel like you're indispensable, and you love it when clients just want you. But how much better is that when clients actually love having your team members? It's just that transition, I think, of getting over the ego around that. And that success takes many forms. So you can have a successful business that you are involved in, but you're not necessarily the one out and about, and that's actually okay. And as long as the ego can handle it, it's all good.
Well, congratulations, because in my words, I actually call that the super person syndrome, where nobody else can do it as good as I can. And I see so many examples of where the business owner suffers from that. That is, they're not trusting their team to do the right things. And that's the thing that actually holds the business back from progressing and growing and expanding. So, yeah, well done.
Absolutely. And I think the thing with that too is we can think that, that whole piece around we do things better than others, we think we know better than others. My view is I love hiring people who are smarter than me, who are better at these things than I am. I've got someone in the team who's just joined us who's amazing in that IR return to workspace, far more so than what I am. How cool is that, right? And they love being part of the team, and I don't have to be the expert on everything. Which is absolutely fabulous. But it's around transitioning to allow yourself to do that. And unfortunately, it can be that it is something like a health reason is why you can't be as involved in the business. But if you didn't focus on putting the systems and processes and having the right people around, then if you have that something like a health crisis, then the business can actually implode, and it won't thrive under those circumstances if you haven't put the groundwork in place for the business to be able to thrive, even if you're not there.
I couldn't agree more. So, congratulations again. Well done.
Thank you.
Linda, in terms of, I guess, your industry, what do you see as being the major challenges going forward?
Interesting question. I think AI is going to be interesting to see what part and role that plays in an industry like HR. I think this piece around the human connection is still so important in the HR space. And yes, there are elements of it that are relatively transactional, and AI can streamline processes and make things more effective. Where my concern though is that what the AI is using to make decisions though is there inherent bias, as an example, in the AI. So how do we ensure that the AI does not assume, for example, that doctors are male and nurses are female? Where there's already some information out there which is saying AI makes those kind of generalities. So I think the challenge is going to be, how do we harness the power of AI to make our work more effective and efficient without compromising on the ensuring that there's not inherent bias in those processes, and that we're giving everyone equal opportunity to be able to, for example, apply for a job. there's already systems that can already screen resumes for you. Will actually do the first call, that kind of thing. For me, there's still something about calling someone up like we're doing today, Phil, and having that conversation with a candidate. I guess I'm still a little bit old-fashioned in that way, that I think there's something around that, and I wouldn't want to rely on AR wholeheartedly to run a recruitment process. So how that's going to work with time, I think will be really interesting to see how that's going to play out. I think the other thing is it's equipping, the other thing in our industry, it's really around, which is around that training and coaching piece, is equipping our leaders for the challenges that we not only already have today, but those that we're going to continue to have in the future. So whether that be around managing a team that is filled with people of different backgrounds, who might be some on site, some remote, someone might actually be overseas, living overseas and working for you. So how do you actually have that sense of teamwork, creating that culture that you want? It's continuing to develop leaders' emotional intelligence, around understanding themselves and others and how they influence that. So, it's that whole piece, I think, as well, that it's around developing our leaders to face all of those challenges that we've got coming up.
Yep. Thank you for that. I'm really curious about this AI journey as well. And I know my team is already starting to use it, but being quite wary about making sure that you just don't accept what it's giving you. You've really got to read it and amend it to make sure that, hey, the message is not getting lost in the translation. Absolutely
agree. And you can already tell, for example, things that are some things, obviously not all, that are written by AI, for example. So it's around, how do we use it for good? I think it's going to be a really interesting challenge for us, and opening up opportunity though as well. And this is areas where I think particularly that creativity piece, how do we harness people's creativity, and how do we, what are we going to do for people who maybe are in jobs at the moment that aren't going to, that AI is going to potentially take over those roles. So whether that be, assembling cars, for example, where everything can, be effectively automated, whereas before it used to involve a lot of people. How's that going to work with, it might be bookkeeping services, as an example, where a lot of the matching, a lot of the work that's done by bookkeepers might be able to be done by AI. So how are we actually going to manage that transition? And how do we manage that not only within your own team, within your business, but also just more generally in terms of the community and the community impact that might have? Yeah.
Yes, again, I totally agree with that. So, Linda, finally, what other words of wisdom might you have for any aspiring people that are looking to get into business?
One, I'd say go for it. It's a lot of fun. I would say do your homework in terms of making sure you understand the business that you have. So whether that be one that you're starting yourself or that you're buying, make sure you've got the money behind you, so that if things don't come off in terms of the sales, that you've actually got that, that financial buffer to make sure things are going to be okay. I think it is around ensuring that you have a good coach to help you through that journey as well. And they can help you with avoiding a lot of the pitfalls and traps. Sometimes there is that element if you do want to learn some lessons yourself, but what you don't want to do is to have that cost you too much around the process about learning that lesson. So having a good coach, I think, is really important. So that really strong person who's an accountant, for example, or a bookkeeper that's helping you on the financial side, it's around that coach, it's coach, and then probably also mentors, just someone that you can bounce those ideas off, which is different again to having a coach. But absolutely go for it. I see a lot of people now who are starting up their business as a side hustle, so they're actually still ensuring they have some income while they get the business off at the ground. I think it's that whole point of you can't steal second base while you still have your foot on first. at some point you have to make that leap, right? So if you think about
Yep.
baseball or softball analogy, at some point you need to make, to have that leap. So it is about backing yourself, but making sure you have that support and that financial support around you when you take it. It's an amazing roller coaster ride. Absolutely love it. I could never go back to working for others again. I just absolutely love the experience of being a small business owner and giving back not only to our clients and our team, but also to the community in which we work. So yeah, there's nothing better.
Thank you so much. Great words of wisdom, Linda, and thank you for sharing your journey in business.
Thanks, Phil, and thanks for the opportunity to talk with you this morning. I really appreciate it.
Okay, bye now.